Today's conversation is called Divided We Fall, because there is a huge schism when it comes to men and women. And I look at a lot of stuff. When I look at content, I look at comments under my posts, and I've gotten taken the pulse of modern day people. All right. So I'm looking at men and women, and my audience is typically anywhere from mid-20s to late 40s. And of course, there are some people on the fringe, but that's kind of the majority. And so a lot of us have the same situations that we're dealing with. And I really hope that this video will serve to give you some perspective on what's going on so that you can better achieve your goals. Because most people just want a happy, healthy relationship. Most people either want to improve the relationship they're in, or they want to enter into a relationship and have it be healthy. So that is the spirit in which I'm coming to you today. If you're new to my content, my name is Yonci. My page is Chasing Yonci, because I am on a path to reach the highest version of myself in Christ. And so I am chasing that next level, okay? And so I want to share with you things that I have learned along the way. And I have to say thank you, because you guys have taught me so much over the past 7 years. So without further ado, the first thing that is causing us to be divided and split up, and if you guys saw a reel that I reposted a while back, we are terribly divided right now when it comes to men and women. And specifically within the Black community, there's a really, really big divide between the Black man and the Black woman, okay? So I won't go too much into that in this conversation, but I do want to acknowledge it because there is a lot going on there, okay? But the first thing is, there is a danger when you look at things as all good or all bad, all right? You guys have probably heard that saying, you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, meaning there's usually something good in there, but the whole thing is getting discarded when there is a lot of stuff that's redeemable. One of the things, shout out to my buddy Tony Massey, that he really helped me understand, and I was not quick to get this, okay? I fought back because I didn't understand it first. But he was saying words are really important. And he said, as a content creator, you have to be careful that when you describe these men who are not in a healthy psychological place, you can do further damage. I'm paraphrasing, but essentially that's what he's saying. You can do further damage by labeling them a negative name. So if you go back and look at my older content, you will see me be very sarcastic, and I would call these guys F-boys, okay? After that epiphany, thanks to my buddy Tony, I have started to refer to those men as unhealed men, because that's what they are. Now, there's a deeper meaning, there's a deeper reason behind doing that. It's not just a name change, because the actions have stayed the same, but the second name speaks to the problem. And if we understand this person is not intrinsically bad, okay, they are, even the term bad boy, right? I never thought about that one actually. Bad boy. You're implying that the person is all bad. And so what my concern was this is a little side note, but my initial issue when I put up a fight was, I need to make sure that women don't think it's their job to convert the bad boy. And at first, that's what I was concerned about. But then he was able to help me come up with a solution that didn't swing the pendulum from one way to the other. Because my content is like protective mama against these men. And he didn't want them to be discarded. I'm like, that's not my issue. But I realized I could do both at the same time. That's the wisdom of God. He will show you how to do two things at once. So if a woman understands that he's unhealed, she can keep her distance from him, but she can empathize. She can say, oh, like if you saw someone in a car accident, oh gosh, you don't always stop. I mean, most people don't stop. You just, and you look at the car accident or the train wreck on the side of the road, you don't look at the train wreck or the car accident and go, yeah, look at that jerk. That'd be so weird, right? You'd be like, oh, what? So it's really important that on a conscious level, we call it what it is. When a person behaves in a way that is unloving, that is selfish, that is mean, harmful, we see that as a person who is not healed, Okay, the Bible says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Whatever's inside your heart is going to come out, and your actions reveal what's going on inside of you. So think of us as sponges. If you squeeze me and I'm full of love, well, guess what can be wrung out of me? You're going to get lots of love. If you squeeze me and there's bitterness and pain, what's going to come out of me? Bitterness and pain. So that person who is acting in a toxic way, guess what? He or she is experiencing toxin within. Okay? It's like somebody who is ripping someone to shreds, but then you look at them and they're sitting on broken glass. Like, wow, that's uncomfortable. Okay? Think about when you're hungry. Are you a sweet and kind? No. When you're hangry, you tend to be less pleasant, even though you have the best of intentions. Why? Because a lot of your energy is going towards stifling your pain, okay? So that's the very first thing that we have to be careful not to do, is we have to be very careful to not look at the entire opposite sex as all good and all bad. And the reason why I know that people are doing this, even if it's not conscious, and if you correct it, a lot of times people will defend themselves and say, oh, I don't think that. But this is what I point out. The biggest giveaway when somebody is hurting and therefore, or just unaware of this, they will use absolute terms, okay? So they will use terms like all. Man, all women ever do is take my money. They just use me for my money. All men ever do is want to sleep with me, okay? All. That's one of the absolutes. Another example of absolutes, never. Man, I never meet a man who just wants to love me. I never meet a woman who appreciates me. She just likes what I could do for her. Always, never, absolutes. A third one I wrote down, only. Women only come to me when they're hungry. Men only come to me when I'm sad. Okay, so when you have to catch yourself using these terms, because one, it's showing the world that you're in the place that you are psychologically, and that's off-putting, which I'm going to get into at another point. The second thing is that you're actually hurting yourself. So if you are constantly telling your subconscious mind, all women want from me is money, all men want from me is sex. If you're telling your subconscious mind, and that's the point, subconscious, you don't realize you are hypnotizing yourself, and you are going to constantly sabotage, reject. You're going to do everything because your actions and the way you think consciously is trying to keep in line with what your subconscious mind thinks. Okay, so if you see a man who's trying to talk to you, he might have done nothing inappropriate or pervy, but you're like, man, all he wants is sex. And this dude could literally have been just trying to be nice and put your shopping cart back in the corral. Okay, so we tend to speak to our subconscious mind things that we don't want to be true. I will constantly say on comments, every time I see when I do my best to speak, and when somebody says, I say, hey, King, speak what you want to see. Speak what you want to see. And if you're not in a place where you can even do that, then what do they say? If you have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. But what you don't want to do is speak over yourself something that you don't want. I'll never be in a relationship. No one will ever love me. Don't say those things. You retract that statement. You do not want to speak that over yourself. The Bible says there is power of life and death in the tongue. We are created in the image of God. And how did he create the universe? He said, let there be light. He simply spoke the words and it existed, okay? There's so much we don't understand about the spirit realm, because most people see the spirit realm as like, oh, it's just church stuff and Jesus stuff. And I'm not into all that religion stuff. You need to understand the spirit realm, because guess what? Half of you is spirit. Human being. What do you think being means? Human being. We would just be called humans if we weren't also beings, okay? We would be these little robotical characters. Eat, poop, sleep, drink. But we're not. We are more than animals. As much as people want to be like, oh, we're just animals. We sure as heck are not. Because I don't have a dog, but I don't see my dog, going over philosophies and pontificating. I don't see my cat, suffering from anxiety and depression. Okay, there's a reason why there's a difference between men and animals. So I'm getting off my point, but there's a reason, okay? All right, so let's see. Somebody said music impacts. Woo. You know what? We're going to take a little detour and we're just going to punch that point, Monroe. 100%. I just was doing research this morning on the different levels. It's called dual something. It's about like having certain beats in your right ear. That's my left. Certain beats in your left ear and certain frequency or beats in your right. And they figured out different combinations that help you meditate or it helps you get to different states. Y'all have no idea sometimes the impact that is happening with the combination of beats and music and lyrics. Go back and listen to your favorites. Just look at, if you have Spotify, Apple, whatever, go back and look at the last 10 songs you've listened to or the ones you play on repeat and actually look at the lyrics written down. Like really look at them. Are you speaking things over your life that you want? Are you speaking things over your life that you want? If you would not stand there as like a spellcaster and you would not wiggle a magic wand and speak it over your life, do not speak it subconsciously to yourself through lyrics. Y'all, it's some radical stuff, but if you want some radical changes, you will listen and you will take heed. All right? I had to cut out secular music. I don't even know how long. It's been so long. I don't listen to secular music because a lot of it, even the cute little love songs, speaks of a desperation. I can't live without you. You are my world. If you walk away, you've taken the biggest part of me. No, you have not. No, you have not. I will not speak that death over my life. I don't ever want someone to be able to have the biggest part of me outside of me. That sounds horrible because now you leave, my world is shattered. So there's all these innocent songs that are putting you in this headspace. So watch the messages you are taking in subconsciously. Watch the music you are listening to and the people you're around. If you have people in your ear, what do you always say about women, right? Oh, well, she must hang around a group, what do you call them, like chicken head. Well, you're susceptible too, sir. If you're around dudes who speak nothing of hate of women, oh man, all they ever do is and you're watching this content that's constantly using those all men, they'll even distort things that are true, right? Purpose over, what's the other P word, okay? Purpose over pleasure, shall we say? People will say that, but then they throw in there the bitterness. Yeah, because women ain't this. No. Healthy masculinity says I'm purpose over everything and I do what God called me to do on this earth, and then relationships go after. Not because you loathe the person, it's because it's about balance. Okay, so you eat the dessert second, the meal first, not because you loathe the dessert, but because there's an order. You need to eat your nutrients first, okay? So everything is about balance. Okay. Oh, I love that. I used to tell myself no one will ever want to be with me because I'm in a wheelchair, but God dealt with me. I love that. And I've seen beautiful stories of people who have certain limitations physically and finding the love of their life. I know there's a gentleman who, he was on Oprah, I believe, but I think he was born without limbs. I don't think it happened as a result of an accident, but he had no, legs below his knees and no arms. And he ended up having, not that looks are everything, but he ended up having a gorgeous woman. And we think about what the world would say, right? Oh, only a certain type of man could pull a woman like this. But the reality is that all things are possible. So I love it. Keep hope alive. That's one of the beautiful byproducts of being tapped into the Holy Spirit, is that you have hope and it doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. Okay. Yes. Bad company corrupts good morals. Yes, that is absolutely true. Okay, so the first thing, we're still on number 1, which is the danger of looking at people as all good or all bad. And this is the other thing that you need to understand. Even the bad behavior, and again, I'm not saying see somebody who's unhealed and be like, ooh, let me get in a relationship with them. No, those people typically need a lot of healing. You want to stay back. However, this live stream is about protecting your energy. And if you are, as they would say, vibrating on a certain level, it hurts yourself. So you don't want anything negative coming through your body, okay? And we're going to get into that in a little bit, you guys. But here's the thing. I want you to understand the bigger picture, because if you understand the bigger picture, it helps you to have empathy. And somebody was saying something, they were confused on a post that I did earlier today. They said, yeah, but forgiving makes the person think this and it's okay. The forgiveness It's not about the other person. Sometimes they don't even know you've forgiven them. The forgiveness purifies the bitterness out of your system. I do deep dives into the Word of God, and within the words, okay, because the Old Testament is written in Hebrew, the New Testament is written in Greek, and so there's a concordance, Strong's Concordance, and it breaks down every single word in the Hebrew and the Greek. And when I did a deep dive on the word bitterness, it used the descriptions of a poison. And you guys, this is why we get into the spirit realm. I invite people to come to my Bible study every Thursday night, because you need to understand this stuff. And I'm not going to go super deep on this live stream because it'll be like 4 hours long. But if you don't understand what's happening in the spirit realm and you're trying to use logic, you are going to end up doing something that hurts yourself. So if you're holding bitterness in, somebody gave this quote, and I love it. They said, bitterness is like swallowing poison and waiting for the other person to die. And that's actually in line with what Scripture talks about. Bitterness is something that goes through your body like a cancer. It spreads. It's poisonous. So you have to get out of the bitterness. So what has helped me is when I can empathize with the person. Empathize does not mean condone. Condone means you're explaining it away and you're okay with it. That's condoning. Empathy is, oh, I see why he did that. And a quick example for empathy would be like, okay, this person just punched the lights out of this other dude. On its face, it looks like the bad guy is the guy who punched. Like, who punches people? Then you find out this guy was holding these people captive, and him punching him allowed the victims to run out. When you get context in the bigger picture, it allows you to go, oh, okay, and then it helps you to not hold this bitterness. So I say all that to say, when you look at a person as not all good and all bad, look at that person as coping. When a person is acting in an unloving way, they are coping with something that's happening within them that's unpleasant. Going back to the example I gave about sitting on the glass, okay? If somebody is sitting on glass in the spirit realm, they're not going to be a pleasant person. They are coping with their pain, all right? So a lot of times, usually almost all the time, they are coping from childhood trauma. I did a post today about childhood trauma, and a lot of people want to be dismissive of psychology and say, oh, you're just excusing stuff away. No. If you read the Bible, you will see that it talks about stumbling blocks, offenses, stumbling blocks, offenses. Think about a stumbling block. A block, imagine like a bale of hay, right? Something like the size of that. Or have you ever seen those little, what are those cement blocks called that keeps your car from going too far forward into the parking spot? I remember leaving the grocery store one day and I was going for a walk, and I was walking through the parking lot, and I was so involved with my phone, I didn't realize I was approaching the little cement, little stopper, right? The little barrier. And it was so embarrassing. I did one of those like I whiplashed forward because there was something there. Okay, it actually did its job because it's supposed to do that to your car, but it did it to me. That was a stumbling block. There's a reason why Scripture uses that. Why? Because in the spirit realm, people are just walking around, having a great day. Hey neighbor, blah blah blah. And then there's a stumbling block. Well, now I got whiplash. I got pain in my neck spiritually. My toe is stubbed. Maybe my proverbial paint job, my pedicure is messed up. There is now a spiritual wound. So people are walking around with a spiritual wound, and now they're hobbling. Okay, in the spirit realm, hobbling. So the person you would have judged because you're like, why are they walking like that? Or why aren't they offering to help me? Well, you need two able arms to help, right? This person maybe has a gash on their arm. Well, what does it look like in the natural realm? Having a short temper, being defensive, reading into everything, being selfish. There was a wound that happened in the spirit realm as a child, and because they did not know how to deal with that wound, a lot of times it either forms a keloid because it just healed on its own. Okay, it's like what I like to call spiritual keloid. It's this coping mechanism, or sometimes there could be an infection that starts to take over the other parts of their body. All right, so people respond to these spiritual wounds a different way. If you're wounded in the spirit realm, you could end up killing yourself. A lot of kids who are wounded in the spirit realm, what do they say? Sticks and stones could break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's a lie from the pit of hell, because words are attached to spirit. So if I tell you long enough that you suck at life, you're never going to be anything, I regret having you as a kid, you're the worst out of all of the children I've had. If I tell you this long enough, I'm going to create a very big wound in your spirit. And eventually, you could become in so much pain spiritually, but you pass every health inspection, perfect heart condition, perfect skin, perfect, everything's working fine, all your vital organs. But if your spirit is wounded, you could end up committing suicide, okay? So the spirit realm is really, really important to understand. So these people are then developing toxic coping skills or wounded skills. So if you're either wounded, and usually it's like you just hurt yourself, or you become toxic to other people as well as yourself. All right, and that's where you also get well, I'm not gonna get into that because I don't want to confuse y'all, but I got into wounded versus toxic when it comes to masculine energy too, but we're not gonna go there. He said a bruise can heal in a week, a word can last for years. 1,000%. I always say that. The words last a lifetime. I remember asking people in my Facebook group, I said, do you remember like something in your childhood where it really kind of changed the trajectory of your life? And people were like, instantly recalled it. These are people in their 40s, sometimes 50s, and could instantly recall discouraging words that were said to them as children. You tell me words don't have power, and I'm going to show you somebody who's really confused about life. Okay? The other thing is that, thank you, Deus. Thank you for the badge. The other thing is that, so we're still at number one, the danger of looking at people as all good or all bad. The first thing is that we don't understand, we don't have empathy because we don't understand where it comes from. You know, they have these childhood traumas, okay? And then I talked about spiritual wounds and then the toxic coping skills. Hey, Ra. But the second thing I want to point out is that a lot of times it might not be that they had something negative happen to them. It could just be the lack of positive or a combination of both. When I say lack of positive, meaning there's just no training. I say, man, you ain't got no home training. That's literal. Like, you did not have someone in your home training you. And unfortunately, people like me oftentimes think that certain things are common sense because we've always thank you, Ra. We have always been taught certain things, okay? I didn't really think about a lot of stuff because I was just taught. I was taught how to speak. A lot of people compliment me. Oh my goodness, you're so well spoken and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, the second I became cognitive. Why does that sound weird? Ironically, right? I'm talking about speaking. But as soon as I became cognitive, my parents corrected my verbiage. So if I would say, oh, I ain't got that yet. No, I don't have that yet. What are you looking at? At what are you looking? I was constantly coached. So when my friends were struggling in English, I literally would just have to say it in my head, and then I would know the answer. I was introduced to Spanish early on. I was taught how to walk with a book on my head. My dad formally taught me how to walk in high heels. You see those women who walk like deer, like that just got their legs. They just started learning how to walk, and they do the little funny walk in the heels. I was given practice. Like, I literally was on a runway just practicing, and then I did modeling. So a lot of the things that I just think sometimes are just common sense, cognizant, thank you, sometimes I forget. No, and I love it because somebody corrected me. They said, no, you're just privileged. And I want to use that word because it reminds me that it is a privilege to have those things given to me, but it also reminds me that they are not common. Therefore, give people grace. So if somebody does not have something that I have, it doesn't mean that I get to be arrogant about it. I should thank God I have the privilege of being taught this, okay? So a lot of women were not taught, for example, to be feminine. They were not taught. They don't even know what that looks like. To them, feminine is sexual. Oh, I'm going to have, my chest out. Oh, I'm going to have my behind out. Oh, I'm going to be in a really tight dress. I'm going to be provocative. They see sexuality as femininity, and those are not the same thing. So for them, they are just going off of what the world shows. Oh, a woman who's enticing and gets a lot of guys is sexy. Oh, that's what feminine energy is. No, feminine energy is a lot deeper, and it takes a mother showing this. Feminine energy is seeing your mom cater to your dad way before the Beyonce song ever came out, okay? Cater to your dad, putting on a little extra something before he comes home, you know, to be presentable, cooking for him, making sure that he had a meal before his workout, an hour before his workout, so he could digest everything before he does his workout. She was so supportive. She wasn't combative. I saw femininity played out, so nobody had to formally teach me, but it was still being taught. You see what I'm saying? So these guys, you're ridiculing them sometimes, and I can't believe what pansies they are, and blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? Because they were raised by a chick a lot of times. A lot of these guys did not have a big old masculine role model in their life. Nobody who punched him in the chest like, hey man, fella, we don't do that. We don't do that. I remember my husband catching my son. There was only one occasion I remember, but he did something that just wasn't very manly, I guess. I think it was just the way he was sitting or something. He was like, yeah, son, we don't do that. And it's just these little tweaks all throughout childhood that get you together. It's like the tree that's growing up, right? They catch it at a sapling and they tie it and they make sure that it doesn't grow like this. You got to catch it as it's growing and keep straightening it out. So if you see certain characteristics, oh man, you got really pissed off and you wanted to kick that guy's butt. You know what? Let's get you into boxing. Let's learn how to channel that anger. Let's use that masculine energy productively. All right, let's get you focused. Let's get you into military academy. Whatever it is, there is a need for whatever it is. There is a need for guidance and structure. So it's really important for us to understand that sometimes we have unrealistic expectations of people who were not taught this. And again, this is for the sake of letting you know why you should empathize and not be bitter, because what? Bitterness poisons you. Thank you, love. I do see the questions. However, this is a teaching lesson, so I'm going to wait until the end so that I can address the questions. But thank you so much. You guys can continue to submit them, and then that way I can separate them out when people are watching the replay. They're not getting this like knee-jerk question. Okay, so let's see. All right, so we're finally off of number one. Oh, and the other thing is, when it comes to training, thank you, TC. When it comes to training, this also shows up with marriage. So I love working with couples, okay? But when I work with couples and do marriage counseling, I discover that certain things that seem like common sense to me, because I saw it modeled in my parents, it's not common sense, and these people don't know how to fight. I'll give you one example, okay? How to fight fairly. So one of the free game, okay? This is the biggest thing in relationships when it comes to fighting. If you do this one thing, you will avoid, I would almost say 100% of the fights. If you speak to your pain instead of speaking to that person's intention. Let me give you an example. And I did this with Raw. If Raw's still watching, we did a little role play on his live to show. If you're telling me you're gonna pick me up at 7 and you're late, I could come at you and say, you don't care about me. If you did, you wouldn't have had me waiting that extra 30 minutes without a phone call. What did I do? I spoke to your intentions, okay? That's the wrong way, and that's what most people do that I see. The right way is, man, it really hurt that you weren't here at the time we agreed upon, and I felt confused when I hadn't heard from you, and it made me feel just not thought of when I didn't even get a text to let me know the new time, the new ETA. The second one is only talking about how you feel. It's really hard for somebody to get mad at what you're feeling, okay? So if a guy says, man, I was really embarrassed by what just happened back there, like having all my buddies laugh at me, now that my business is put out there, it just feels so, I just feel really disrespected. That's different than, man, you disrespect me, don't you ever do that again, because then what? Our human nature wants to be defensive. So both things are true statements for you, but one allows the other person to empathize with you and go, oh man, this is what this person is going through, okay? So a lot of people just do not have training on how to date in a healthy way or have healthy relationships. So number 2, I kind of already said this initially, but I want to formally just punch it for those of you who are like taking notes. When you don't forgive, you are the one who's suffering, okay? Like I said, I've said this before, but I just want to say it again. That statement, when you don't forgive, it is like taking poison and waiting for that person to die. Bitterness is toxic to your energy. We are made up of electronic energy, okay? We are energy. We are force fields of energy. We have our physical body, but we are energy. And that energy is toxic. People who call it vibrations, that's a low vibration. That's not a good vibration, okay? So if I cannot get past the trauma and the frustration that this guy caused me, I am forever stagnant. I'm going to stay in this place and it's going to start to permeate through my body. The problem is that it repels healthy people. Have you guys ever been on a dating app and you're like, oh, he's so cute, or oh, she's pretty, and then you get to the little write-up and you're like, oh, they go, first of all, because this is how I hear it in my head, first of all, what I'm not going to deal with is somebody who doesn't respect my time, and second of all, I'm not going to deal with, that's how I read it, okay? What I'm not going to do is such a turnoff. And when I give people advice on how to make dating profiles, I say, never, ever introduce negative. Do not go in with what I'm not going to do. You only have a limited amount of space. Why don't you use it on what you do invite in? Hey, I'd love to meet, open-minded people, or people who blah, 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 have a zest for life. When you lead with that negative, all it does is says this subconsciously, I'm bitter. To a healthy person, that's all you see. I'm bitter. Avoid me like the plague. I'm bitter. And we don't want to be around bitter because we're working on being healthy, okay? And you think you're repelling all this bad stuff. You're repelling everybody. The people who are like, in the description are not like, oh, they don't want a player. They don't want someone who's going to waste her time. Oh, let me just politely remove myself from the situation. No, it's like criminals and laws. The people who obey the laws are not the criminals. So we got to stop with this whole leading with negative energy, okay? So when you're bitter, you repel people. It tends to assume the worst. Okay, you guys have all seen that. You've done something totally innocent, right? Maybe you're the person on the other end and you're running late and you meant to call, but you lost track of time. Your meeting ran over, or you couldn't get reception where you were, whatever. And this is your first offense with this new person. And instead of them coming in with an open mind, yes, they're frustrated that they had to wait an extra half hour, right? But instead of having an open mind, you're greeted with, oh, you just don't even care. Oh, you just like all them. Oh, you think you gonna play with my time? Oh, you don't think I like, whoa. First of all, I didn't have reception. Second of all, so it's the worst. So people who are bitter tend to jump to the negative. I'm really, really working on that. God has brought me a long, long way. Thank you, God. But because I had so much trauma, the second anyone did anything outside of what I expected them to do, it was because they were the worst person in the world and they were going to hurt me. That's where my brain instantly went. But all that did was tell me where my brain was at. It never was like, fortune telling, what they really were. But over time, you do notice and you read and you intuit, okay, and then you get enough information to make a decision. But you're not making knee-jerk reactions and then saying, oh, I know exactly why this person did that. Okay? Now, if a person is consistently doing things that are disrespectful and rude or whatever, then it's a red flag, get out. Okay. Oh, the other thing is that, and I hate this. There are multiple content creators, I will not call them out by name, but there are multiple people who have made a channel, made a platform based off of their pain. There's one guy who specifically talks about it all changed when I got hurt, okay? So this guy gets hurt by this chick. Now he goes from looking up to women like, oh man, one day I want a wife of my own, to, uh-oh, I got hurt. Now his whole energy is all, remember that, the absolutes, all women suck. Now I'm going to be proactive and I'm going to catch them before they catch me. Well, here's the thing. When you come in ready to just plow down everybody else, guess what you're not taking into account? All these people who are innocent. So are there women who are gold diggers? Yes. Are there women who just want to use a man for the resources? Yes. Are there women who are just using guys as fillers because she really likes this other dude, but she's just entertaining you because she's bored or is not getting his? Yes, those people exist. But you cannot treat every single person as though they're that person. That's assuming the worst again. So now you had, we'll just give some names. Sheila originally hurt Jamal. So Jamal, when he sees Ashley, he's treating Ashley as though she's Sheila because he's assuming all of them are like Sheila. Now he's triggering Ashley and traumatizing Ashley. Well, now when Ashley goes and deals with Brian, she's dealing with him in a toxic way. And you see how this just keeps adding pee to the dating pool. So instead of somebody going, you know what? That original guy, when he's dealing with Sheila, he looks at Sheila's behavior and goes, that behavior really sucks. I didn't like that. I'm going to make a mental note and make sure I have discernment to not have someone like that again. What are some of the telltale signs she gave me? What things can I do to avoid this situation? And then you just add it to your ability to discern. You don't add it as ammunition to, weapons and ammunition, okay, to go out and hurt other people. Hurt people, but that doesn't make it right. The other thing is that when you are bitter, this is the toxicness, the toxin that goes through your body. It makes you very fearful. You're paranoid. You ever seen somebody who has PTSD from war? I have a brother-in-law, and I don't know how he is now about it, but he couldn't listen to fireworks, back when I was in his vicinity a lot. And if there was like a sudden, sound, a door slamming, he was just on edge. It was very hard. Same thing with my uncle. He was a corrections officer for so long, he had to get out because he had a hard time being a civilian. He had to sit with his back against the wall. He could tell you everyone's outfits and where they were at any time. And it was draining him. He couldn't just enjoy innocent situations anymore. So when you are hurting, you become very fearful. You tend to be very angry. And the worst thing is you lose hope. You want to see someone who's lost hope, go through my comments. And you're going to see some guys who are really, really bitter. We say, oh, who hurt you? It's a true statement. It just people don't usually say it in a loving way. Like, oh my goodness, you must be so hurt. It's like, oh, who hurt you? As in, get away from me, you're trash, right? But these people are hurt. And when they say things like, oh, yeah, well, this is why I do this. And I'm like, oh, there. You really have been hurt. Hey, Finch, shout out to you, sir. The last thing is, for this part 2, okay, number 2, is that it leaves you lonely. A lot of people swing the pendulum the other extreme. You either are like, I hate people and I'm going to hurt them back. Thank you so much, First Lady Ham. Or they go, I'm just going to avoid people altogether. You know what? I don't want to hurt people and be toxic. I'm just going to avoid them altogether. That's my master plan. I'm just going to focus on my business. I'm just going to focus on my career. I'm just going to focus on this. You know what? I'm just going to go adopt a kid. And you think that you could just avoid relationships altogether. Well, guess what? We are meant to be together. We are meant to be together. There are some people who I believe are able to be single, and it's not out of bitterness. That's just something that they're wired like. But most people want to couple. That's a very natural thing. We need each other. We need society. And even people who don't couple, they still need a community. They don't want to live on an island somewhere. Okay? So there are all these men who are just going their own way. But the problem is that they still have a spirit of lust. Okay? They still have sexual desires. So then what do? Well, I don't want the relationship with the woman. I'll just use her. I'll just get the sex out of her. and then discard her, right? The women are going, I do want the provision. I do like that a man can give me provision. So, you know what? I'll just hang around him long enough so you can pay my bills, and then I'll discard him. It's very, very, very dangerous to have constantly two people on opposite ends using each other like commodities and not giving back and pouring into them. Now we are just feeding this monster of bitterness on both sides. And then every time it happens again, you're going, yep, I knew it. See, I was justified. Yep, I knew it. And now you're just fueling this monster. So what's number 3? And I will get into these questions, you guys. Number 3 is, what's the solution? So I just described what the problem is. Divided we fall. Men and women being in this huge schism. You know, it's like this big, like an earthquake happens and the land just divides. And now we have women on one side and men on the other side, and none of us are happy. So we're happier together. They say you can't live with them, can't live without them, okay? So thank you, Evolving Wife. Here's the solution. The very first one. Recognize that the aching you have is a God-sized hole. It's not a golf-sized hole. It's not a tennis ball-sized hole. It is a God-sized hole. And the only thing that can, what is that word? It's filling it, but it's like the only thing that can satisfy it, the only thing that can stop up that hole, which is pain, causing pain, is to have a relationship with God. So, again, a lot of people hear God, Jesus, church, Bible, religion, and they're like, no, and they shut down. Why? Because a lot of people who are claiming it, right, they repping JC, but they're not repping JC, okay? They're just saying they are, but their actions say the opposite. It's caused a lot of people to just run away from that whole experience, but it's a whole experience. There is this peace that passes all understanding. I am a living testimony. Okay, I grew up in the church. Dad was a pastor. I had all this knowledge about God, but I did not have a relationship with God until in my mid-30s when I had an emotional breakdown. I was having a psychotic break because of all the pain and trauma I had gone through and was going through. I sought God with a seriousness like, this is not a joke. This is not a game. I was the proverbial woman just grabbing at the hem of Jesus, like, let me just touch his garment. That was the energy in which I approached the word of God. And I was like, I need something because I'm hurting inside. So a lot of you people are hurting inside and you don't know where to go, and you are erroneously looking to a woman or a man to fill that void. And then guess what happens? Oops, their humanness comes. And then you want to throw the person away because you're like, see, they let me down. You cannot put your faith and your trust in man. You cannot lean on them the way you lean on the rock, okay? So it's one thing to say, oh, you know, I trust my spouse to go hang out with the boys. That's different kind of trust. Trust is, I am putting my life in your hands. Spiritually, your spiritual life. Remember that song? If you leave me now, you take away the biggest part. Nah, you ain't taking the biggest part of me, because the biggest part of me is God. Remember I said that earlier? You cannot give yourself, it's a form of worship is really what it is. We don't realize it. We are worshiping and making a God. Whatever you lean on as your strength is your idol. People think of idolatry like you doing crazy seances and lighting candles and doing all kind of weird crap. No. Idolatry is whatever you lean on. What do you rest on? What do you find your strength in? And if it's money, well, as long as I can have money, I'm good. As long as I can have sex, I'm good. As long as I can have a man, I'm good. As long as I can have my kids. Whatever you're putting your strength in, whatever you are leaning on spiritually, that is your idol. And you know what you're leaning on by looking at how you allocate your time. What do you spend the most time striving to get close to? If you spend the most time trying to get sex, if you spend the most time trying to have an orgasm, because that includes, you know, porn, whatever it is, right? If you spend the most time trying to get into a relationship, if you spend the most of your time trying to get more money, if you spend the most of your time trying to get fame, that's your idol, okay? the very first thing as far as allocation of energy and focus and devotion should be on God. Because, and this is the beautiful thing, when you focus on Him, He gives you all the stuff you wanted to begin with, but it's without perversion. Okay? Because you have to learn that He is the foundation. He is that thing that is keeping you sane. So once you recognize, let's say you're watching this video and you're like, you know what? I realize I've been holding bitterness. I realize I have this toxic energy within me. I really, without realizing it, I feel like I hate men. Or I guess my actions show I hate women. Whoa. When you come to that realization, you can confess it. God, I don't want to be like this. To repent just means to turn away. I don't want to be like this. I don't want to look at women with disdain. I don't want to look at men with disdain. I want to be able to respect and admire a man, or I want to be able to love and adore a woman, and give it to God and say, I don't want to be this way. Can you melt my heart? And He will, in the spirit realm, literally melt your heart. You will become soft. And then you say, God, give me wisdom and discernment so I can discern between people who deserve my time and energy and people who don't. It's okay to be selective. It's okay to discern between what's good and not. The Bible says, don't give your pearls before swine. Okay? So figure out who's right and who's wrong. And the people who are still healing, they're those people in the car as you pass by. Oh, God bless them. And just pray for them. Oh, may God help them. You know, pray for them as you let them go by and out of your life. You don't cling to them because, oh, we've been together for 3 years. No, that's not your rock. That's not your foundation. Boo-boo. The other thing is that when you have these encounters with God, you become so lovable. People won't be able to get enough of you. People will not be able to get enough of you. They're like, oh my goodness, you're just so positive and you're so loving and you're so forgiving and you're so kind and you're so wise and you're just so lovable. Okay? And then you're going to have the zest for life, which is part of what makes you lovable. You're going to be so free. Your energy is going to be so light. The vibration is going to be so high, and it just attracts a whole different level of person. Okay? And it doesn't scare people off. It's this beautiful energy. You're just like, man, I just want to be around this person. And then you're enjoying life that much more. If you're single, you're enjoying yourself in your singleness. If you're married, you're enjoying your partner. It's a plus, pro. There's no cons to having these encounters with God, okay? The other thing is that if you are in a relationship or you get in one, you don't have to have a perfect partner. Without God, your partner needs to be perfect for you to enjoy them. With God, they fill in all the gaps. God fills in all the gaps. You know what? My wife is short in these areas. Oh, my husband is short in these areas. But God satisfies you where they are not able to hit that mark. And if you have a partner who also loves God and has encounters with God, they're going to turn into the best version of themselves. So as you're becoming the best version of yourself, they're becoming the best version of their self, and you're constantly leveling up, and it just keeps getting better as opposed to getting worse over time. Okay? So this was a long lesson, but I wanted to get this out. For those watching on YouTube, at this point, I'm going to answer the questions. I don't know if I'm going to post them yet with the YouTube video or cut them off, but I'm going to enter into the questions now. And I'm trying to think if it's the earliest one to the bottom. Oh, I'm going to go in the order that I think is oldest to newest. Okay. Do you think it's possible? By the way, guys, if you're enjoying this content, feel free to hit that badge and support. It's my little offering plate I can pass out if you like today's message. Okay, Darling Desi says, do you think it's possible to remain friends with an ex if you are in a new relationship? Okay, so my question would be, what is the purpose of the friendship with the ex? And two, the reason you're asking this shows that you realize there's a conflict in interest. So for most people, let's just keep it 100, most people sleep with their partners. Once you have crossed the line of sexual encounters, that is no longer a friendship. That person is a former lover. So as much as we have moved into the new phase of the relationship of just friends without the sex, there was still that, the Bible calls it knowing the person. You know each other in a sexual way. And it looks like it's a woman who's asking that question. what you must understand, and I was going to just make this about men, but we're the same way as women. The best thing that I say when I'm answering questions that have a gray area is putting myself in the other spot. If I'm dating this guy and he's friends with someone he used to have sex with, how do I feel about that? If I would not like that, that is how I live my life. Also, if I know that that person could possibly be hurt by my actions, that also affects my decision. I try to err on the side of caution. And so anybody who truly cares about me, let's say I have an ex and I get into a new relationship, a man would understand, a real man, okay? Not a self-centered man. A real man understands man code and would not be hanging around out of respect for the new guy. Let's be honest, that's just weird to be around someone who has smashed your current person. It's just uncomfortable. Is it impossible to move past? No, it's not impossible. But that's just weird. And the more you can do to make it not a weird situation for your partner, that's showing love. So that's how I would answer that question, okay? The second question is, let's see. Okay, why do women give out their real number if they are not really interested? Why don't they just say, I'm not interested? Ooh, okay, I am very qualified to answer this as a recovering people pleaser. I did that a lot in my past. This is so embarrassing. I did not date in high school, and my parents asked me to try not to even date in college. They just really wanted me to focus on school. So when I tell you I was like so, I don't want to use that word because it's not a politically correct word, but I was not developed, okay? I was not socially developed when it came to interpersonal relationships, okay? Yes, Lamont, that's exactly why. So I was not developed. So this guy, he was cute. He asked me for my number, and I was like, deer in the headlights. I didn't know what to do and did not know what to say because I felt put on the spot. I wanted to say no, but I didn't want to hurt his feelings. And so I gave the number. This is how ridiculous I was. I called dude to tell him to please not use my number. So cringy. And I tell you this cringy story that's so embarrassing to admit, but thank God I'm not there anymore, because it's about not liking confrontation. For a lot of people, because they are not able to handle criticism or rejection, they project onto the other person that they can't handle rejection, and they're so afraid of what's going to happen. It's also it typically comes a lot from, in my opinion, childhood trauma. So if a person had a parent that was very flip-floppy, like if you made them happy, they are really sweet, and if you make them unhappy, they're kind of hostile or distant, then it makes the person constantly alter their behavior trying to anticipate the next thing. It's like, you know, when you're dealing with a toxic situation, you develop these coping mechanisms. And so I used to really avoid conflict, which is funny because as I got older, I'm like, it's not even conflict, it's just being honest. So that guy, if I had said, oh, no thanks, I'm not interested, he probably would be like, all right, didn't even think twice about it. But I made it so unnecessarily weird. So that is the answer to your question. Why do women do that? So one, it's that they're uncomfortable with conflict, and they want to spare the guy's feelings, and they think that that's the best way to do it. The other thing is that as a woman, it can be very scary if you see a man flip out. So there are men who flip out to the extent of actually murdering women. Some men have such frail egos that if they are rejected, they just flip out. They literally turn into the Hulk and just flip out. Other men can become physically violent. They don't kill her, but they become physically violent. So obviously the worst is murder, and then the second would be just physically abusive, and then below that would be verbally abusive. There are a lot of men who flip out. You say no thank you, and they're, why you think you cute, oh you think, and they just go in and just rip the woman apart. Okay, so all these things, and so I have someone watching who's from Chicago. She said this stuff happens all the time. You don't know which person you're catching, and if you're catching them on a bad day. So as women, we are naturally smaller than men. You know, it's just we're very aware of our vulnerability, and so you just never know which person is just one rejection away from snapping. So hopefully that answers your question, sir. Why do women give their number if they don't plan on using it? Oh, and by the way, I would say for advice for the woman who doesn't really know how to word it, because I literally remember I used to post in my group, how do you want us to say it? And guys are like, just say I'm not interested. And I didn't realize it's really that simple. So this is, when I was single, this is what I would say. I would say, oh my goodness, I'm so flattered, right? You want to acknowledge and you want to stroke their ego a little bit. This is just common sense. I am so flattered. You know what? I'm not interested, but thank you so much. And then sandwich it with something pleasant. Thank you so much. I'm flattered. I'm not interested. Get right to the truth, and then sandwich it with thank you. Be kind, and then keep it pushing. What happens is, oh, bummer. If you let me know which part, I can probably try to restate it. But this helps because maybe the person who's kind of on the edge, but not quite over the edge, it keeps them from that. The other thing is that men have also had trauma where the woman just clowns him. We've seen that where it's overkill. Instead of saying no, she's like, really? Like, you see yourself and you see me and you thought that was like that? You thought, like, I have seen some of the nastiest turn downs, and I always think to myself, these women would not survive a week if they had to constantly put themselves out there and get rejected. It takes a lot for them to step up. Okay, so let's see, what's the next question? It's kind of a redundant, I think. Why do they ghost them? Okay, yeah. Alrighty. And this is the thing, and let me add this part too. So if you've had this happen as a guy, if you've had this happen as a guy, you have to be careful you don't become bitter and you don't lose hope in the good ones. This is what you do. You put out the energy, and if she doesn't respond, you take the emotions out of it and you say, oh, she is not in the running still. And you try as best you can to take the emotions out. Don't take it personally, even though it feels personal because it happened to you. You cannot take it personally because that energy is not going to help you in any way, shape, or form. You have to just go, oh, they're out of the running. We have to look at people as in the running, out of the running, in the running, out of the running as far as dating, and that's it. When you go deeper into it, now you're starting to have issues and things like that. Okay. Oh, I love this. He said, women need to be careful. There are some men who won't show restraint if they feel disrespected. And this is what women really need to understand. Man's code, it's almost animalistic when I say this, meaning it's their nature, it's their wiring. Like, they have to really work to override this. There is a deep need, not a desire, a need for respect. There is a need for respect. Just like we have a need for love. It's not, oh, it'd be cool to get love. As a woman, we crave, we cannot function properly without love. Men cannot function without respect. This is why men won't cross certain lines. Or if they do, they are ready to fight. Like, no, it's supposed to be a sleeve pulling up. I was like, who pulls or sleeve with that? They're ready to fight because they understand I have crossed this line and there is going to be a physical ramification for it. Okay? So this explains why, because when I was younger, I used to not understand. I'd be watching movies and stuff, and something was really, really obvious why someone wasn't doing something, and I'm like, why didn't they call him out? Why did they say something that's like so opposite? Like, let's say, for example, the guy was scared, right? Let's say two men are around, and one guy can tell the other guy's scared to go in and fight or whatever the case may be, right? The other guy will give him this out to kind of protect his honor. He'll be like, oh, didn't you say you had a meeting? He'll let that man be like, yeah, I had a meeting. And they'll let them save face because they understand that it's humiliating to feel like you're not being masculine. I hope this is making sense what I'm saying. Men will give other men a pass, and they will not say the obvious. They will play dumb sometimes with other men as a way to honor them and respect them. And so with women, because we're not wired that way, a lot of times we don't even see where that line is crossed. And not only will we tap dance on that line, we'll like jump over it, cross it, come back and forth. We don't get it. A lot of times we are being disrespectful to a man and we are causing this major, major, major pain unnecessarily. And then we wonder why they're snapping, and it seems like they snapped out of nowhere, when in reality, you literally have been triggering them for the last 10 minutes. Most men hold restraint when dealing with disrespect from women, but women see that as weakness until they come across a man that can't hold restraint. Yes, yes, yes. Could not agree more. All right, Christine, now I have your question next. Do you believe that some people can go to extremes when it comes to setting the standards for themselves? Do you mean a standard for yourself as in what you expect of yourself? Or do you mean a standard when it comes to other people? Because either way, I think people can be extreme. So you can hold yourself to an unrealistic standard to where it's, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. You can also set unrealistic standards for other people because they are still humans. By the way, guys, if you're enjoying this content, feel free to tap the little heart and purchase a badge. Super inexpensive, and Instagram takes most of it, but it's still a nice little gesture, okay? It's like tipping your waiter or tipping the comedian if you're enjoying the show. TT says, we all have things to work on. Do you believe that the right partner can help you heal, or is that more of codependency? I love this question. Love this question. Okay, so here's the thing. There's a difference between codependency and interdependency. I like to describe people as mirrors, okay? When we get around another person, when we have a relationship with someone, we are forced to relate to them. It's like tying your two inner, you have two people and you're tying your legs together like a three-legged race. So this person's tying their left leg, this person's tying their right leg, and now we're having to work and relate to each other. We're not just independently walking, we're having to figure out how to walk in tandem. So during this process of relating, you learn a lot about yourself. That's why I like to describe partners as mirrors. When you are by yourself, it is as though you're in a room with four walls with no windows, no reflective surfaces at all. Okay, nothing, just walls. When you bring a person in, it is adding a mirror to the wall. So now you can't just walk by that wall and not see the big old stain on your face. You're like, when you walk by, you go, oh, whoa. Now, two things happen. Thank you, my love. Thank you, Sai. Two things happen. There are two alternative reactions. The first person sees the reflection on the wall and goes, oh my God, that's on my face? And they go find a napkin and they use that mirror to get it all off their, did I get it? Okay. And they get that thing off their face. That's the healthy reaction. And they go, oh man, I'm so glad I had a mirror, because now I'm offering the best version of me. I'm presenting the best version of myself to the world. I wouldn't have seen that probably if that mirror hadn't been there. Thank you, partner. Thank you, mirror. That's healthy reaction. Toxic or unhealed reaction walks out, sees the reflection on their face and goes, oh, this freaking mirror. I knew it was too good to be true. Man, just like the other mirrors. Man, they're good for like 3 months and then they keep being defective. Doggone it. And they take that mirror off the wall and they throw it outside. Oh, I gotta go shop for another mirror. You know what? Maybe I don't even get mirrors anymore. So in a healthy way, your partner can help you to heal. Because let's say, for example, you're honest and you say, hey, I have abandonment issues and this is a real struggle for me. That person can be sensitive to your need and say, you know what? I'll be a little bit more reassuring. Hey, if I'm gonna be late, I'll give you a heads up, or whatever the case may be. But I think that it's okay to be in a relationship while you're on the healing process, but I also think that you should be doing stuff on your own, whether that is therapy. It should always be a relationship with God first and foremost. But in addition to the relationship with God that's getting you your healing, sometimes it helps to understand things in the natural, and that's where therapy comes in, or coaching, shameless plug, to help make sense of it. Hey, when you're acting this way, here's what you can do instead. Hey, ask your partner the question this way. Don't make an accusation and just make a statement like that. Okay? So when a person is if you're the person who's the healthier one, right, and you see your partner's the one struggling, be careful that they are not looking to you to be their savior. That's when it becomes codependency. If this person is appreciative of your feedback, they're taking your feedback and you're seeing growth, that seems more helpful, and they're open to getting help for themselves. If they are saying, I just need you, healthy partner, to make all the adjustments on your side so that I don't get triggered, that's codependency, and that's not okay. All right? Does that make sense? I hope that helps you. And the last question, how do you help someone realize that they're putting up guards because of past hurt, which staggers our relationship? So any type of problem that somebody has, they have to have an open heart. That's not just a catchphrase. There is something that happens in the spirit realm. If you could see it, it's almost like a wardrobe opening up. You know those old school wardrobes that have double doors and they're on hinges? You can't put clothing inside of a wardrobe that's closed up. Like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, right? You can't put clothing in there. You're just going to keep hitting your hand and breaking the hangers trying to put clothes in there. In the spirit realm, the person has to open their heart. The same thing happens when you invite Jesus Christ into your life. You say, do you want to accept the Lord into your heart? It's like, what does that mean? It means consciously you are saying, I'm open to this experience. I am open. When someone says, can we talk? You could either be like, and you're preparing to fight back, or you could be like, I'm going to keep an open mind. I'm going to listen to what they say, and it's probably constructive. And da-da. Okay, that's having an open heart. So if there's a huge if, like the font is like this big, IF, if that person has an open heart and is receptive, then you can tell them anything. You can give them resources, you can give them tools, you can work with them. But if when you try to introduce this information, they shut down, that speaks to their character, okay? And I don't even want to say character, it speaks to their level of healing. So they're still in a place where they're in denial and defensive, and it's because they don't feel safe yet. The best thing you can do for that person is to pray for them, help and pray that the Lord specifically opens up their eyes. Thank you so much. Opens up their eyes to see that you're not the enemy, or just ask God to help heal them, because as they become healed, they start to see things clearly. It's like wearing these really big goggles, but then someone puts spray paint on the front. It's really, you have a distorted view, and then when God comes and heals you, it's like he just takes the goggles off and you're like, oh, this is what the world looks like. You stop having a distorted lens. Thank you, Maximus. I appreciate that. I feel the love. Okay. So that being said, it's all about how that person responds. The other thing is this. People don't care how much you know. You could be a full-on licensed therapist with like 30 years under your belt. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. I love that statement, and it's so true. The Bible talks about you could have all this stuff. It lists all these things. It said, but if you don't have love, you're like a banging cymbal. Like you're just like the ting ting. Like it's not cute. It's not nice music at all. So for most people, they need to feel loved and supported. Unfortunately, when people are wounded, they tend to act in ways that are very undesirable. Again, it's the person sitting on glass. They're not going to be pleasant. They're going to be fidgety. They're going to be complaining and in pain, okay? And demanding. So we, the healthy person, tend to get triggered because we're provoked. We're like, they're not being kind. They're being hostile. They're raising their voice at me. They're using profanity. They're distancing themselves. They're coping, And then what happens is if we get provoked, we respond with energy, negative energy. And then that digs them back in their hole more. That is why it's really important for us to be connected with God, because it will give us a space of being peaceful, and we can see that it's the pain. So when he lashes out, instead of going, I don't know who you think you talking to, instead of that, you say, you know what? You going through something right now? You're not like yourself. This isn't how you normally are. You want to talk about something? Would you like a little space? I could tell you're upset. I could tell you're upset. You learn how to approach things differently. He says stuff like, I used to be more generous, or say sweet things, but I got burned. So I don't get to see that side of him. So you have two options. You can see him as he's being honest, And you have to accept him where he is. What I mean by that is, if you choose to stay with this person, you have to prepare yourself for the very possible option he is never going to change. Okay, most people, when they get to a certain age, it's like you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Outside of an encounter with God, most people become hardened like clay. It's very hard to get them to be malleable after a certain point. It's like clay or Play-Doh left out in the sun. It just gets really, really hard, okay? God can melt them, but the sun will harden them. Without God, the sun will just harden, okay? So you have to be prepared that this is possibly it. The other thing is, you could try to approach him logically, and you could say, hey, I understand that in the past you have gotten hurt, therefore you're holding back. How would you feel if I did not give you all of me? How would you feel if I only gave you 50% of my love, or 60%, or whatever percentage you want to say? The problem is that when you're dealing with a spiritual wound, logic tends to not really make sense. Okay? So I don't know how successful you're going to be in logically explaining to him. Usually what happens is the healthier person just takes the L. They're like, well, this is how they are. So it's really, really hard. The other alternative is giving it time. If you give it time, a lot of times over time, they see the consistency in you, and it will naturally let their guard down. It's like with a woman who says, I've been taken advantage of, so I don't want to sleep with you right away. If you're not waiting till marriage, which you should wait till marriage, because there's a lot of stuff that happens in the spirit realm. Trust me, you do not want to take that on, but that's a side point. But if a woman says, I don't want to sleep with you right away because I've been hurt, it serves that man to be patient. And if he feels like he can't wait that long, then leave. So it's fear. Again, this person is scared. They're really, really scared. So you have to know what you can deal with, and you have to be okay with the fact that he might never change. Okay? Everybody needs to get married or get in a relationship with someone expecting that they don't change. You hope that they do. Well, most people hope that the person changes their negative ways and that they stay the same in the positive ways, but we have to be realistic and be prepared for that. Okay? So don't go in like, one day I hope they'll change, and then you just bitter when they're not. All right, so I think that is all of the questions. You guys had great, great, great questions that you had. I will stick around for like 30 more seconds in case anyone has one more question they want to submit, or if they would like to purchase a bag. I tried to give you guys some good stuff today that will be really, really, really helpful. If you guys are not on my email list, please, please, please take time to do that. As soon as you get off of this live stream, you can click the link in my bio, and it says stay connected at the top. This is very, very crucial, because we do live in a cancel culture. We do live in a place where technology can go wrong and it could get shut down. And so if I have an email address connecting you, God forbid my social media ever goes down, you guys can find me. This has happened on Facebook. It was devastating. I lost connection with 5,000 people. And so it's really important. The other thing is, because I always send important announcements there, and if you're like me, you follow a bunch of people, it's impossible to see every single post. So please make sure you stay connected. You can always unsubscribe later if you don't like it. But yeah, it's really important to be connected. Tomorrow is Monday. I do my live stream, my weekly live stream on Monday. And so if you guys are new to my page, you don't know, it's at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. I always bring up a relationship, a topic about love, sex, dating, or relationships. And that's tomorrow at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, which is 7 o'clock Central, 8 Eastern. But you can join in on the conversation. First Monday of the month, I do a group chat. I let everybody come in on camera who wants to, and we hash out different conversations. What else? Thursday night, I do a Bible study, and that is something that you will get emailed every week. So if you're on my email list, you'll get that, and we learn about the spirit realm. So much stuff you need to know about the spirit realm so that you can have things be working in your favor and not against you. But if you don't even know about it, you're way behind. I think that's pretty much it. Oh, Fridays, weekly Fridays, I have Friday night singles. So I use the term matchmaking very loosely, because what I'm doing is just going live with whoever wants to jump on. So it gives you a chance to show off your personality and how you look and things like that. and then I post the individual interviews to YouTube, my YouTube channel, so you guys can see. We had 3 lovely ladies on last week. The week before that, we had a woman and 2 guys. So actually, I think it was 4 guys. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. So Monday night YouTube, Thursday Bible study, Friday singles event. So that's your weekly content that's coming, plus everything else. Thank you, Sai. I appreciate that. You're such a sweetheart. All right, guys. So it looks like there aren't any more questions. So I'm going to sign off and enjoy the rest of my Sunday. If you enjoyed this video, please comment below on YouTube. On Instagram, please go ahead and share it with somebody else once it's posted there. All right, guys. Until next time, tell someone that you love them. And I hope it's really, really apparent just how much I love you.